before JCB became a household name. A Scotsman's invention and a family firm in an Essex village had already beaten it to the punch. Across 1970s Europe, in Welsh valleys, Swedish workshops and Italian motor valley towns, brilliant, brutal, half-forgotten diggers were clawing motorways, sewers and housing estates out of the ground. 10 forgotten machines. Real steel, real history, real names most people have never heard. Some outdug the legends. Then time, takeovers and one yellow giant buried them completely. Number 10. Benati. Let's start in Italy, with a name that almost nobody outside the trade remembers today, even though it was building earth-moving machinery before the internal combustion engine was a serious idea. Benati traces its roots all the way back to 1887, not as a digger-builder but as a maker of plows. Think about that. This was a company older than the motor car, older than the aeroplane, that survived 2 world wars and then reinvented itself again and again, until by the middle of the 20th century it had become one of Italy's serious names in excavators and backhoe loaders. By the 1960s, Benati wasn't just an Italian curiosity. It was expanding hard, opening branches in the United Kingdom, the United States and Canada. A small Italian firm punching well above its weight on 3 different continents. And crucially, it became strongly associated with the backhoe loader, that do-everything machine with a loading shovel on the front and a digging arm on the back that was quietly rewriting how small and medium construction jobs got done. Here's why Benati belongs on this list and not in the history books. While British and American builders got the glory, Benati was doing the unglamorous work building rugged, no-nonsense machines for contractors who couldn't afford a fleet. Machines that dug footings in the morning, loaded muck at lunchtime and backfilled trenches in the afternoon. And then the fate that swallowed so many of these firms swallowed Benati too. Through a series of consolidations, the name was eventually absorbed into what became CNH, the giant that today owns Case and New Holland. The machines got rebadged. The Benati name faded off the side of the cab. A company that had been going since 1887 effectively vanished into a corporate parent, and a whole century of Italian engineering became a footnote. That's the theme of this entire list. Not that these machines were bad, but that they were good enough to matter, and then history quietly closed the door on them. Benati is where our story begins. Number 9. Weatherill. Now to Britain. And a name that veteran plant operators still say with a bit of reverence, Weatherill. To understand Weatherill, you have to understand something most people get wrong about the backhoe loader. Everyone assumes JCB invented it out of thin air in the English Midlands. The truth is messier and far more interesting. In the late 1940s and 1950s, a whole cluster of British firms, and one very clever design that had crossed the Atlantic, were all racing toward the same idea at the same time. Take a tractor, hang a loader on the front, bolt a hydraulic digging arm on the back, and you've built the most versatile machine on any building site. Weatherill was right in the thick of that race. It was one of the British makers that offered digging and loading equipment in this pioneering era, alongside names like Bray and Whitlock, firms that were experimenting with these tractor-based diggers before JCB's combined machine had properly established itself. One of the fascinating details from this period is how the technology moved around. An American-designed backhoe unit built by Sherman Products of Michigan, the Sherman F9, was fitted onto machines from several British makers, and there are records of that very backhoe mounted on a Weatherill. So you had this genuinely international mongrel American digging gear. A British base machine, all coming together in a yard somewhere in England to make a working excavator loader. That's what makes Weatherill such a poignant entry. This wasn't a company copying JCB. This was a company that was there at the very start, part of the first generation that proved the concept, one of the builders who worked out through trial, error, and a lot of broken hydraulics, how you actually make a tractor dig and load and survive a hard day's work. And yet, ask a room full of people today to name a British digger brand, and you'll hear JCB, JCB, and maybe JCB again. Weatherill, one of the genuine pioneers, has been almost completely written out of the popular story. It shocked the industry in its day simply by proving the machine could work. Then it got left behind by the very revolution it helped start. Number 8. Derupa. crossed the Channel to France for number 8. And a name that even serious enthusiasts struggle to find much on, Derupa. Derupa was a French manufacturer of backhoe loaders, and its story is a perfect example of how tangled and international this industry became by the late 1970s and early 1980s. Because Derupa's biggest claim to fame isn't a machine it designed from scratch, it's a machine it inherited. Remember the name Hymac? We'll come back to it in a big way later, because 2 of the top 3 machines on this list wear that badge. Hymac, in South Wales, built a hugely respected backhoe loader called the 370. But by the early 1980s, the corporate world was in chaos. Hymac had been swept up into a giant, overstretched European group called IBH, and when that group collapsed, production of the Welsh-designed 370 backhoe loader was picked up and moved to Derupa in France. Reports from people who worked with these machines put the move at around 1983 to 1984. Just sit with that for a second. A backhoe loader conceived in an Essex village developed in a Welsh valley ends its production life being built in France by a company most British operators had never heard of. That's not a marketing story anyone planned. That's the raw, unsentimental reality of an industry consolidating, collapsing, and reshuffling itself across borders, and taking these once proud machines along for the ride. Derupa represents all the small national champions of continental Europe, the French, Italian, and German firms that built solid, capable diggers for their home markets and then found themselves either absorbed, relocated, or simply outcompeted as the industry globalized. It shocked no one with a single headline machine. Its shock is quieter and honestly sadder. It's the story of how a great design can outlive the company that created it and still end up forgotten in a foreign warehouse. Number 7. Venieri. Back to Italy for number 7. And this one is a genuine survivor's tale, which is exactly why so few people realize how far back it goes. Venieri was founded in 1948 in the small town of Belricetto di Lugo in the Emilia-Romagna region, the same stretch of northern Italy nicknamed Moto Valley, home to Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Ducati. 2 brothers, Ferdinando and Carlo Venieri, both mechanical engineers, started out doing what a lot of post-war Italian genius did. They took what they could find and made it work. Their very first machine, in 1948, was a crawler tractor they called the Singoletta. And here's the beautiful detail. It was essentially built from a carioca, a tracked military vehicle abandoned by the Allied forces after the war and repurposed for farm work. A 40-horsepower crawler cobbled together from the leftovers of a world war. That's the origin story of a company that's still building machines today. Through the 1950s and 60s, Venieri shifted its focus firmly toward earth-moving equipment. In 1968, it produced its first machine with a hydrostatic transmission, genuinely advanced for a small Italian firm. On the 23rd of November 1974, right in our target decade, the company formally became VF Venieris PA, the name it still uses, and it was pushing real innovations for the Italian market. Power shift transmissions and pedal steering on its flagship loaders, features that put it at the front of the domestic pack. The backhoe loader that made its name came a little later. In 1981, Venieri unveiled a rigid-frame backhoe loader that it developed as a natural evolution of its wheel loaders. And this is the clever bit. Unlike the backhoe loaders based on humble agricultural tractors, the Venieri machine was built up from a purpose-designed loader which gave it real stability and digging efficiency. It became a market leader in Italy. So why is it forgotten? Because outside Italy and a handful of European markets, almost nobody knows the name. It remained a family-owned niche builder while the world bought JCB and Caterpillar. It never became a household word, but it's still there in Lugo, still family-run, still building, a quiet, stubborn survivor from a decade that erased most of its rivals. Number 6. Hanomag HD60. Number 6 takes us to Germany, and a machine with one of the strangest bloodlines on this entire list, the Hanomag HD60. Hanomag is a proper old German industrial name, a maker of tractors, trucks, and especially wheel loaders with serious engineering pedigree. But the backhoe loader we're talking about here, the HD60, didn't spring from a clean sheet of Hanomag paper. It's the ghost of a British machine. Here's the thread. when the Welsh firm Hymac was developing a replacement for its famous 370 backhoe loader. That new design was being worked on in conjunction with Hanomag during the turbulent IBH era, the same overambitious European conglomerate we mentioned with Derupa. When IBH fell apart, the development work didn't die with it. Hanomag carried the design forward and turned it into a production machine, the Hanomag HD60 backhoe loader. So you have this extraordinary situation where the DNA of a backhoe loader, refined in an Essex factory as a Whitlock, matured in a Welsh factory as a Hymac, ends up flowing into a German machine wearing a Hanomag badge. Look at early HD60s, and enthusiasts point out that the loader rams and bucket rams sit in positions that echo the Hymac layout because that's literally where they came from. The HD60 is a machine most people have never heard of, built by a company most people associate with wheel loaders, based on a design most people don't know existed. It's forgotten 3 times over. And yet it represents something important: the way real engineering knowledge refuses to die neatly. Companies collapse, but the ideas, the geometry of an arm, the layout of a valve block, the shape of a bucket, get carried across borders and rebadged and kept alive by whoever's left standing. Hanomag itself would eventually be absorbed into the wider construction equipment world too. But for a window in the 1980s, driven by 1970s development work, the HD60 kept a great British design breathing under a German name. Most people never noticed. That's exactly why it's here. Number 5. Bray. For number 5, we go back to Britain, specifically to Feltham, just west of London, and a company that was arguably ahead of JCB on one very important idea: 4-wheel drive. Bray. The full name was W.E. Bray and Company, founded by W.E. Bray back in 1911. They started as ironsmiths and toolmakers and gradually became specialists in construction and earth-moving equipment, operating out of Feltham in Middlesex and later Tetbury in Gloucestershire. And here's what made Bray special. While everyone else was building diggers on standard 2-wheel drive tractor bases, Bray became known for fitting 4-wheel drive to its machines when that was still an exotic feature on a building site. The specific models are wonderful. In 1956, Bray showed the Bray Loader 430, a 4-wheel drive front-end shovel machine, for the very first time at a major British show. There was the Bray Hydroloader 23D, a loader and digger combination unit from around 1963. There was the Bray DL35 dual loader, and for the backhoe end of things, Bray sold the Longford digger, which was actually an American-designed Sherman backhoe unit, often bolted onto a Fordson major tractor and combined with a loader to make exactly the kind of dig and load machine that would come to define the industry. And Bray was no parochial little outfit. At one point, the company stated that 3 out of every 4 machines it built went for export, with particularly active markets in France, Italy, Austria, Sweden, and Switzerland. A British firm from Feltham quietly shipping 4-wheel drive shovels and diggers all over Europe. The end came the way it so often did. In 1973, right in the heart of our decade, Bray was taken over by another equipment maker, Matbro. The 2 firms merged and worked together for years, but the independent Bray of old, the 4-wheel drive pioneer, effectively disappeared into the merger. Bray shocked the construction world by proving that a digger didn't have to be stuck the moment the ground got soft. 4-driven wheels meant traction, meant working through a wet British winter, meant not calling a mate with a chain every 20 minutes. It was genuinely ahead of its time, and it's almost completely forgotten. Number 4. Volvo BM 616. Number 4 is Scandinavian steel, and if you think Volvo just makes safe estate cars, this machine will change your mind. The Volvo BM 616. First, the name. The company we now call Volvo Construction Equipment has one of the longest lineages in the entire industry, stretching back to a Swedish engineering workshop founded in 1832, through the tractor maker Bolinder Munktel, which Volvo bought in 1950. It built up serious expertise in loaders and industrial machines. In fact, this lineage produced the world's first wheel loader with a parallel lift arm system back in 1954, and in 1973, the company was renamed Volvo BM, which brings us to 1974 and the machine itself. The Volvo BM 616, described by Volvo as a high-capacity excavator loader, arrived that year built on Volvo BM's well-proven loader and industrial tractor chassis. But here's the part that makes it special, and it's straight from Volvo's own account of the machine. The backhoe unit on the 616 was specifically designed for the tough ground conditions of Scandinavia. Think about what that means. This wasn't a soft soil machine dressed up for a gentle English housing estate. This was a backhoe loader, engineered to bite into frozen, rocky, unforgiving northern ground and keep working through a Swedish winter. It was built to be robust in a way that reflected exactly where it had to earn its living. Scandinavian operators, who were famously demanding, took to these machines, which is part of why more older Volvo BM construction equipment survives in preservation in Scandinavia than almost anywhere else. And yet, outside its home region, the Volvo BM 616 is a machine most people have never seen. Volvo, the car brand, is one of the most recognized names on earth. Volvo, the 1970s backhoe loader builder? Almost nobody knows that chapter exists. The company that made it went on, through a long chain of mergers with names like Michigan, Euclid, and eventually Ackerman, to become the Volvo construction equipment giant we know today. And in the process, these early machines got quietly left behind. The 616 shocked its market by being tougher than it had any right to be, purpose-built for the hardest ground in Europe. And then the sheer scale of what Volvo became simply buried its own humble backhoe past. Number 3. Hymac 180 Workmaster. Now we reach the top 3, and all 3 of them are threads of the same extraordinary British story. It starts in a Welsh valley, in a town called Rhymney. Hymac. The company was established in 1946, based at the Rhymney Engineering Works in South Wales, and it earned its reputation as a genuine pioneer of the fully hydraulic 360-degree excavator, a serious piece of engineering history in its own right. But Hymac also built backhoe loaders, and number 3 on our list is one of the toughest, most brutally overbuilt of the lot, the Hymac 180 Workmaster. During the era when Hymac was owned by the industrial group Powell Dufferin, a company famous, of all things, for railway wagons, Hymac produced this 180, a wheeled backhoe loader built for heavy work. And the detail that plant operators remember is the loader arms. Instead of the usual fabricated box section arms, hollow steel beams, the Workmaster's loading arms were made of solid steel, described as 1.5 inches thick, not hollow, solid. Some versions were even fitted with high-reach arms for extra dump height. That tells you everything about the machine's character. This was not a delicate tool. This was a machine built like a battleship for contractors who broke lesser diggers and needed something that simply would not bend. In an industry full of clever, lightweight, cost-optimized designs, the Hymac 180 Workmaster went the other way entirely, raw, heavy, and almost indestructible. And that's precisely why it's forgotten by the mainstream, but adored by the people who actually ran them. It wasn't the volume seller that conquered the world. It was the specialist's machine, the one you bought when you were tired of things breaking. Welsh-built, solid steel armed, and utterly overshadowed in the history books by the yellow machines from just over the border in England. But the Hymac story doesn't end here, because the 180's stablemate is the machine that really carried the torch. And to understand that one, you have to know where the whole thing truly began. Number 2. Hymac 370. Number 2 is the Hymac 370. And this is the machine that ties our entire story together. Because it isn't really a Hymac at all, it's a Whitlock in disguise. And that takeover is the hinge on which this whole list turns. Here's what happened. Hymac in Rhymney was brilliant at 360-degree excavators, but it wanted a backhoe loader, rather than design one from scratch. In 1972, Hymac's owner, Powell Dufferin, bought out Whitlock Brothers. The Essex firm were about to crown at number 1, reportedly for £1.2 million. And with that purchase, Hymac acquired Whitlock's backhoe loader designs. The Hymac 370 was developed directly from the Whitlock 370 backhoe loader. Production initially continued at Whitlock's old factory at Great Yeldham in Essex, then moved to the Hymac works at Rhymney in South Wales. Early machines used a 3-cylinder Leyland engine. Later came the 370C, built on a Ford skid unit, that's the base tractor structure, through the late 1970s and early 1980s. And Hymac's engineers didn't just rebadge it. They developed and patented an offset backhoe system that let the digging arm shift from a left offset to a right offset position, controlled with real precision, genuinely useful when you're digging tight against a wall or a curb and can't line the whole machine up square to the trench. Little touches like that made the 370 a favorite of operators who valued a machine that actually made the awkward jobs easier. The 370 became a brand leader, the backhoe loader that, alongside Hymac's famous excavators, made this Welsh company a serious name in construction. And then came the fall. Hymac got swept into the ill-fated IBH group. A replacement, the 370D, existed only as a prototype when the money ran out, and as we heard earlier, production of the 370 was eventually shunted off to Derupa in France, while the design's DNA flowed into the German Hanomag HD60. The last UK-built Hymacs were made after a relocation to Wolverhampton, with production finally ceasing in 1993, the end of yet another great British engineering company. The 370 shocked the industry with clever hydraulics and honest capability. Today, refurbished ones still turn up doing specialist work precisely because they're simple, tough, and free of modern electronics. But the name is a ghost, and the reason it existed at all leads us finally to number one. Number 1. Whitlock Dinkum Digger Number 1. The machine that started everything. The one that by rights should be the household name instead of JCB. The Whitlock Dinkum Digger. Here's the fact that stops people in their tracks. The term backhoe loader in Britain was first associated not with JCB, but with the Whitlock-built Dinkum digger, and it reached the market before JCB's combined machine. Whitlock beat Bamford to it. The story is gloriously odd. The Dinkum digger's backhoe was invented by a Scotsman, Robert Ewan from Fife. The prototype was tested in Copar, in Fife, in 1952. Whitlock Brothers, a company founded way back in 1899, based at Great Yeldham in Essex, whose roots were in farming, chaff, and agricultural engineering, built it under license. They fitted a hydraulic digging hoe to the back of a tractor in 1951 and added a front loader in 1952. And with that, on British soil, the backhoe loader as we know it was essentially born, a couple of years before JCB's equivalent combined machine. And it wasn't a one-off. Whitlock built a whole family. The Dinkum Major and the bigger Dinkum 60 on Fordson major bases, the Super Major with four-wheel drive axles, a range of backhoe attachments, the 105, the 110, the 205 that could be fitted to all sorts of British machines. The Dinkum was offered on Fordson, Ferguson, Nuffield, and International Harvester tractors. This was a real serious market-leading product. One veteran plantman put it plainly. By the 1960s, the Whitlock was the most popular digger in the country. Look at how big the company got. Whitlock employed around a dozen people in 1899. By 1959, 500. By 1966, 600. This was a major British manufacturer. And here's the part that should genuinely shock you. Whitlock obtained global recognition for building the first backhoe loader based on an agricultural tractor. The company's own history and multiple independent accounts credit Whitlock, not JCB, with getting there first in Britain. There's even a patent trail. Whitlock's design work in this area predates and was cited in the story of Bamford's own hydraulic excavator patents. So what happened? Why does everyone say JCB and nobody says Whitlock? Marketing, timing, and a takeover. Whitlock was the pioneer, but JCB became the brilliant promoter so relentless that in Britain and Ireland, every backhoe loader on Earth is now just called a JCB, a genericized name like Hoover or Bureau. Meanwhile, Whitlock, the actual originator, was bought by Powell Dufferin in 1972, folded into Hymac, and within a couple of years the Whitlock name had left the construction industry entirely. The invention lived on, reborn as the Hymac 370, exported to Deruppe, reincarnated as the Hanomag HD60, but the name of the company that started it all was quietly erased. That is the ultimate irony of this whole list. The most forgotten European backhoe of all didn't just shock the construction world, it created the machine that the construction world is still using today. A Scotsman's idea, an Essex family's steel, and a couple of years' head start on the most famous digger brand in history, all of it buried under someone else's yellow paint. Robert Ewan, Whitlock Brothers. The Dinkum digger. Remember those names? Because the industry forgot them, and it absolutely shouldn't have. If any of these machines brought back a memory, if you drove one, owned one, or your dad swore at one in the rain, drop the model in the comments. These names deserve to be said out loud again.